Hi, this is Marina J, and you can see my office is pretty bare. I have just moved from the UK to Sydney, and our furniture is still on the ship. So, from me and my bare office, let's talk about projection. Specifically, what happens to you when somebody projects onto you? So, when someone projects onto you, they are talking to their shadows. They're not talking to you. They're not even talking about you. They are talking to their wounded self. They're talking to the shadow aspect that they say isn't them. It's not me, it's you. I'm not angry, you're angry. I'm not keeping secrets, you're keeping secrets. The issue isn't me, it's you, right? We know that somebody is projecting onto us when they're talking to a version of us that they believe is true. But it's not actually us, they're not seeing us. So they don't see you, they just see their wounded self. They don't see you, they just see their shadow self. So that's who they're talking to, or that's who they're trying to heal, or that's who they are angry with. Okay, if somebody doesn't want to self-reflect, they will say that you are this, but they are not. And they will defend that until the cows come home. So, how do you not take this personally? How do you not take this personally, especially if it triggers you? Because it's not nice to be projected on, right? Especially if this is how you grew up. If you remember that they are speaking to their wounded selves and it's got nothing to do with you at all, this is the beginning of you saying, actually, this is where I end and this is where you begin. Because number one, if somebody is projecting onto you, noticing it is really freeing and really healing, because suddenly the old you that grew up potentially in a family that projected their wounds onto you a lot, that would have been if you grew up with narcissistic abuse, dysfunctional families, potentially parents that were immature or didn't know how to, deal with emotions. They would not have been able to say sorry. They would not have been able to own their shit. They would have said that it's you when actually it's them. And so if you remember that you don't need to correct or teach anybody who is not self-reflecting, because if they self-reflected, they would come to the conclusion of, oh, it's me, and they would apologize. You don't ever have to explain yourself to somebody that doesn't apologize, doesn't say thank you, and isn't invested in your well-being, right? If they have this idea of you in their head, of who they think you are, it's usually giving them something. It's usually letting themselves off the hook. So if you grew up with this kind of family, right, their perception of you would have seeped into you and become your own shadows. And so you would have then heard the projections onto you, right, or felt the projections onto you that you're bad, that you're lazy, that you're the one that keeps secrets, when really it's them, right? Where you're not good enough. Or maybe it's them that doesn't feel good enough at work. And inherently the message would have come across that you're bad or that you're a burden. And really, this is all their stuff. This isn't you. Are you really a bad person? Really? Or are these just your parents' wounds that you've taken in and now you think is you? Because their projected wounds become your wounds. And this is why projection is so painful. You cannot be in a relationship with somebody that projects onto you, because you're not in a relationship with them, because they're in a relationship with themselves, with their wounded selves. They're not in a relationship with you because they don't see you. So as an adult, if you grew up, you're going to find yourself more easily triggered because you've had it as a child. And you might find that you manage conversations that you're in. You're busy managing that person's perception of you so that they see you as a good person, because God forbid you can't have the same repeat of more projection that you had in your childhood. So then in a conversation, you're not in the conversation, you are thinking about what they're thinking about you. So managing how people see you, right? And so separating who you are from how your toxic family saw you is how you heal. When you can own yourself, when you have ownership over yourself, when you belong to you, when you can reclaim your sovereignty and say, your perception of me isn't my perception of me, and you grow your own perception of you, this is how you heal. Because they're no longer the authority over you. They're no longer the authority over who you are, how good you are, how bad you are. They don't get to say who you are because they're not seeing you clearly. They're seeing you through their own filter, and their own wounded filter is really about them. When somebody is projecting onto you, it shows you their wounds. It doesn't show you who they are. Sorry, it doesn't show you who you are. And they can grapple with it all they like, but until they take responsibility for their own wounding, we can have compassion for them, we can love them, but we no longer need to adjust ourselves like we had to do as children for survival. And what I find is that when you've had a toxic past, right, with toxic family members, you will have adjusted yourself and continue to adjust yourself around people in order not to elicit a response from them, in order not to elicit attack from them. But as you become more and more you, more forthright, more strong in who you are much more likely to get projected on. And so understanding and learning how to deal with projections is very important, right? When you're in business, when you're doing your life's purpose, because people are going to project their stuff. We do it, right? I project my stuff outwards. However, I am much more likely to project my light onto people. And I find that with a lot of people that have had narc abuse, they're much more likely to project their light onto somebody else, which means you say, you're this, but I'm not. What we want is for us to suddenly go, actually, I am owning my light, right? And I'm no longer going to project it onto you. I'm no longer going to say, you're this, but I'm not. You're successful, but I'm not. Therefore, I should be under you. We're not saying that. We can have reverence for our teachers, reverence for people that know more than us, respect, all those things. But it doesn't mean they're better than us. It just means they're more advanced in this area. They know more than us. They're more advanced. We can learn from them. They're not better and they're not worse. When we project, we're always going to project an unhealed aspect, which means we feel better or worse than somebody else. What I find is that toxic people are much more likely to project outwards their dark side, right? The stuff that their fragile egos doesn't want to see, doesn't want to look at. And when you do shadow work, there is no dark and light. When you own every aspect of you, then it all becomes a gift. And that can be another video for another time. So with projection, knowing how to release yourself is really important, because then you're free to be unapologetically you, without thinking what they're thinking of you, without thinking that their judgments or criticisms of you are then going to hold you back and hem you in. We want you being strong in who you are without adjusting yourself to people anymore, regardless of whatever they think of you, regardless of whether they project or not. And what I find is that the people that are doing the work, the people that are healing, project far less. In fact, the issue with people that heal a lot is that you're more likely to think it's you than actually think it's them, because you're used to taking so much responsibility for yourself. But I actually want you to turn the spotlight outwards and say, actually, What if it's them? What if they are talking to either a past version of me that's no longer me, or they're talking to the wounded part of them? So I don't even need to be here. In which case, I can love them, I can have compassion for them, but I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to try and make them see. I don't need to protest. I need to be comfortable being misunderstood by this person, and they will heal when they're ready. And so that is what I want to say about projection. So, have you been projected on a lot in your life? Have you had a lot of projection from your family, from your clients, from your friends? Do people always think that you're always all right when actually you're not? Is that what they're projecting onto you? Or do your family, whether you're in communication with them or not, project that you're the problem, that you're the bad one? Just notice none of it's real. And if you buy into it, though, it becomes real. And what we want is for you to no longer buy into it. And the more you realize it's them, it's not you, the more you realize they are not even talking about you, they're talking about their own wounded self. That is the beginning of you freeing yourself and being unapologetically you, because you're too fucking awesome not to be. We need people like you that understand real love, real compassion, how to have real relationships out there in the world. So please, if somebody isn't seeing you fully, that's on them. That's their work. There's nothing more for you to do but to find the people that can see you for truly how beautiful and amazing you are. I hope this really supports you. Lots of love.